Hey all, welcome back to Economic Street. It's your boy Nicholas,
Hello?
and we're here to announce that we're back. It's been a hot minute since we've been here.
Very long time.
So 3 years. It's been a testing journey in that, but we're just here to say that we're back, recording, back with podcasts, back with going to be doing a little bit here and there, to be back on your airwaves on a more consistent basis. I've had a bit of a transition period, but it's just nice to be back with everyone.
Most definitely, yeah. It's been a hot minute. We've been through a pandemic, cost of living, career changes. So there's a lot to unpack. Like life doesn't stand still, does it, Nick? So
No, not at all. Not at all. Saying not even creation, even personal circumstances. As well. Married man now as well. Join the crew. Join the crew. Congratulations,
thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, no. It's yeah, I've missed this. I've missed this, and I've got a lot to get off my chest in this season because a lot of people are moving mad in this world. So from the politicians to even the corporate world. So things have been heating up, and there's a lot to talk and unpack. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
No, I'd echo the sentiment to saying 3 years is a long time, and a lot has happened in that time period. As you said, saying when we was last with everyone, it was in the midst of the pandemic. But now we're on the other end of that. But we've kind of moved into a kind of a new economy. But before we kind of crack on there, just in terms of what we've been up to, as in from my perspective in the last 3 years, as in gone through job career changes, moving on from the stock exchange. I'm now Bloomberg,
Nice.
market structure equity analyst at Bloomberg, covering or I'm the lead analyst for the UK in Bloomberg. Kids are getting older, saying this is 7 now. The youngest is 4. So it's just pure fighting in my household. But a lot of these
Every
things,
night is SmackDown. Mondays is SmackDown.
literally, literally, it's mayhem. Especially the younger one. The younger one's so aggressive, it's unbelievable.
I wonder where he gets it from, mate.
Not me.
That's a beautiful thing, parenthood. So
No,
it's
it is.
crazy.
It
It's how
is
quickly time flies. So
indeed. I wouldn't change it for the world. As in, it kind of it puts things into perspective, and kind of from my own perspective, it does make it difficult to juggle things sometimes. But at the same time, I wouldn't change it for the world.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. I'll get there as well. So yeah. That's coming. Yeah, that's on the horizon in the not too distant future. So yeah, I guess it's part of going through your seasons in life. So yeah, hats off to the missus for raising two beautiful boys. So yeah,
Thank you, thank you.
it's good. Nah, it's speaking of which, there's been a lot of changes on this side as well. So as you mentioned, I've gotten married, and
Yes.
thank you. So even and then from a career standpoint, there's a lot that's been going on over the past few years, I would say. So obviously everybody knew that I was self-employed at the time, and then what I've kind of tried to do, or I am doing, I should say, is just adding different income streams to my bow. So over the
Nice.
last couple of years, I've been building up my accounting practice, going through accounting, and then last year I also bought a education franchise. So as you guys know, what we talk about is economics. It's education. So I've always had a passion for education, and I said, you know what, let me also use my teaching ability to benefit the younger generation. So I bought a Queen franchise about a year ago. So juggling the accounting, amongst other things, and it's been a very interesting experience. Kind of trying to blend all things together. Yeah.
And then how would you say, just like circling back, so then we're at two different kind of standpoints. I've gone the employment route, working not 9 to 4, not 9 to 5, more hours than that, but yeah, the employment route.
I'm about to say,
You've
yeah,
gone,
you're not doing a standard 35-hour week. No, no.
no, unfortunately, no, I'm not. Um, and you've gone the entrepreneurial route. And in that time, I think just for our listeners and for us, it's two different crossroads in the sense of that's kind of one of the things that we had to think about in terms of why you kind of had to be put on a back burner a little bit, if we're being honest with each other. It was for good reasons, and then to kind of get things right, as in with having the two young boys and the missus at home at the time, I kind of had to switch priorities a little bit, if I was being honest. But
Yeah,
then even with yourself, the route you've gone, being an entrepreneur, it's not an easy task. You as
not
in
at
you've got
all.
many hats that you have to put on and juggle. How you found that journey and process from kind of like going,
Yeah,
this is me deep diving, because you was doing economic street and other stuff, but you've gone full on entrepreneurial, you're running different few businesses, and I said to me, hats off to you and commend what you're doing.
yeah. I think that's a brilliant question. And in all honesty, it's been a myriad of emotions. You go through highs and lows. Anybody that's self-employed will tell you that. Let's even go all the way back to the pandemic, right? If you're self-employed, you don't get certain workplace benefits, right? So that's number
Indeed.
one. Two, you have to look for business. You have to drum up business, no matter what the season. By the grace of God, God has been very good. Like, with the accounting practice, that was just growing organically through word of mouth. Um, Ideally, what I would like to do is, or would have liked to have done is acquire a business, another accounting
Mm-hmm.
practice. He's looking to retire, but the industry, that's going to be another thing for another day. But the industry is very it's very pretentious and snobbish when it comes to things like that. So
Okay.
they're looking for your own firm to be of a certain size already. They're looking for just a range of categories, and it's crazy because you just think, wait, I'm already qualified. What are you talking about? I'm already
Yeah.
in the account. So that was interesting from that side. And then obviously you're then coming or you're going from lockdowns into a cost of living crisis that has a different um has its own, it's similar face but slightly more nuanced challenges with that, because
Mm-hmm.
now people's raw incomes are falling. So that takes a toll on the family budget. At least during the pandemic, people were receiving government support in the form of either furlough or self-employment income support, then disappeared. But you have a cost of living crisis where prices are skyrocketing, incomes are not really changing to match that. So that brings its own set of challenges. That's when I also started to think, okay, what else can I add? What other markets can I venture into? And how can that fit nicely with, number one, my current life stage, obviously being
Yeah.
newly married, and also just with my skill set, which has always been the finance, the economics, and the education all intertwined. So yeah, I'd say it's been a real interesting journey because you have to it's dynamic. You have to
Mm-hmm.
adapt. You have to constantly well, either reconfigure. Sometimes you're troubleshooting. Sometimes you're just, it's a whole body. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I think it suits my personality a lot more than being in traditional employment
Yeah.
and the corporate ladder, because boy, that's a different beast in its own as well.
It is indeed. It is indeed. No, but I love what you're saying. Saying that it's because if we're being honest, the entrepreneurial self-employment route is not for everyone.
No,
As I said, for me at my time, I would love to go that route, but circumstances dictated that, say, mortgage, kids, nursery fees, to take that jump.
a lot. It
It,
stacks.
it stacks, and if I was being honest with myself at that time, it wasn't enough for me to go wholeheartedly and take that jump. Just as I just to be honest with
Of course.
myself and the audience, it just wasn't there at that time. As I say, when you got the mortgage and the nursery fees to pay, it's like, oh, this is a big jump. So I wholeheartedly commend the approach you're doing, but also at the same time though, it's not for everyone.
No, of
It's
course.
each person kind of self discovery per se, and go on that journey and to understand what it is they can 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 want to do or don't want to do. For example, I say that, especially for the time that you was doing it anyway, but you wholeheartedly went into it during such a difficult time of the pandemic. So it must have been. You must have said, "Oh, we've known each other for decades now," but I can imagine the sleepless nights and certain occasions, the stuff that even between us as boys, the stuff that he was going through that even I may not know the difficulties of running a business and multiple businesses. It's hard enough in normal times, let alone in a pandemic. I
Yeah,
mean, say, take my hats off to you.
I think you're absolutely right. Number one, it's not for everybody. I know people that are very risk averse. So the thought of
Mm-hmm.
not having a regular income scares people, especially when you already have responsibilities. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody has to kind of just
So, I
you
put my hand
understand.
up on
Everybody
that.
has to kind of understand, like, consider their own circumstances, and also, as you said, know themselves. What can they handle? What are they not able to handle? What works for them? What doesn't? So, for me, the beauty of it at the time as well was I wasn't yet married, um, and then I was still living at home. So that way, I was able to keep my costs low. Now, obviously, I've entered a different season. That comes with new pressures, right? So there's no such thing as, you just have to get it. You have to get it. And it's good. For me, obviously, I'm a man of faith, so my faith is at the
Mm-hmm.
center of everything that I do, and just even understanding, just knowing God and knowing what provisions have been made. So I think as time has gone on, it's become better to remain grounded and not stress as much because, well, being honest, I've got a few grades now from the.
join, join the club. Join the
I
club.
thought I'd be young for life. I thought I'd be young for life, but yeah, the grades
Uh,
have come with the stress. So
yeah, I had my mother-in-law a while back. Oh, do you know, there's something in your beard. Come here. Something.
oh
She's got
god,
to wipe it. They're like, no, that's my great hair.
no.
So welcome to the club.
Well, it's I was avoiding it for the longest. It was just all up here, but now it's trying to migrate. I'll be on my mustache.
I hear
So,
that.
boy, but no, it's been real. It's been absolutely real. I've enjoyed it. I'm still growing. I'm still building. So, that journey, you don't stop. Like every day, you have to try and go to the next level, strive for the
Yeah.
next level. So, yeah, and that's what I'm doing in this season. Thankfully, now also being married, that has been a great support because
Hmm.
now you put your heads together. And I always say,
Yeah.
the way I look at life is this: it's you can go further with more people. Obviously, you have to be united and have unity with you.
Hmm.
But if everybody's living for, let's say, okay, we're in our 30s now. Let's say, God's grace, we've got another 50 years ahead of us, right? But if you take somebody else's 50 years and add it to yours, that automatically become 100. So you can do a lot with 100 years than with 50. So that's the mindset I'm now traveling with. And, we just keep going. And then working and looking for other people to work with and partner with because I believe very much in the power of partnership. Um, it's very difficult to build something solo. It's a lot faster, quicker, um, to do so with other people. But obviously, we know that trust is a major factor in all these things. So no, but it's
I, I definitely echo those sentiments. As in, if you can share share problems, half problems, and it just makes it so much easier in the long run. If you've got someone that can, if you're on the same wavelength page as someone, it can make it a lot easier than, than doing the challenges by yourself. Or you got the sleepless nights by yourself. It's not fun.
not fun at all. Wasn't pretty. So, yeah, thank God.
And as we touched on, I guess for our viewers, as we know, saying we touched on the last time we were here, it was during the pandemic. We've now kind of moved out of the pandemic into what I kind of call the new economy. So
Okay.
we was in a period pre-pandemic, we were in a period of low inflation, low interest rates. So you had kind of easy money, say. So what I mean by easy money, there was a lot of credit available out there to
Yeah,
people, and that was
cash.
being used for cheap. Yeah, and that's key for cheap. That was using an abundance, whether that's for your credit cards or your mortgages to buy your properties. There was a lot of of surplus credit out there.
Yeah.
Then we had the pandemic, uh, which brought us into a recession, external recession. But then also for that then brought on its own pressures because of cost of living, which one was to do with coming out of the pandemic and supply chain squeeze, but
Yeah.
also we had other geopolitical factors
Yeah.
such as the war, which is also
Very.
kind of which is then also kind of accelerated that, and then now so we've kind of moved into a period of ultra low interest rates and low inflation to the cost of living crisis.
The
Higher
opposite.
interest rates, yeah,
Yeah.
the complete opposite. Complete, and we've not seen that same. Well, we haven't seen that
For decades.
probably for
Since the
decades. Is it?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a long time since we've been in this period of higher interest rates and high inflation.
And it's mad
Because what?
because it's mad because it's hard to solve. It's tough to solve.
Mm,
When you have those dual things, like
yeah,
how do you get rid of high inflation? You have to put up interest rates. But if you put up interest rates, you're going to be making it more expensive to access
yeah,
credit or keep your credit lines going because your mortgages become more expensive. Your
yeah,
repayments and everything else becomes more expensive. So now you're being squeezed on both ends. Prices are going up. The cost to fund it is going up as well, and then your incomes are not matching it, which is why we've then had all these basically societal tensions like strikes, industrial actions that are still ongoing, right? Still ongoing from the rail
still
industry,
ongoing.
to the healthcare sector. No, and I don't blame people. I don't blame people. I look at it like this. I say when if we go back to the pandemic, when they started
Hmm.
printing a lot of money and shutting down the economy, that is fundamentally suicidal. You can't do stuff like that because there's always two parts to an economy. There's the demand side and there's the supply side. Okay, you get rid of the demand by keeping people locked in their houses, first of all, which is why they had to introduce furlough to basically keep companies running, right? Because if you get rid of workers, you get rid of the production. So on the supply side, you've shut down factories as well. So supply is now squeezed. Well,
Yeah,
you reopen the economy. Everybody's out their houses. They want to start spending again properly. But factories take a while to come back online. You can't just switch production on overnight. It doesn't work that way. And now you have the whole world reactivating at the same time or needing
yeah,
stuff at the same time. Completely disastrous. So that's why prices shot up. And then you exacerbate that with your stupid wars. Like you're always fighting people. Like just leave it alone. Like, and people don't understand this as well. Inflation has three major causes. It's either going to be something to do with demand. So we call that demand pull, everybody, in economics, where something to do with demand. Maybe you've got all these loans or all this income that the government's created, and that generates basically extra demand. But then you've also got cost push. So that's to do with your supply chains, as you mentioned earlier. And then you've got the printing of money. So what we saw was a perfect storm or perfect collision coming together, which
definitely.
is like it's. I don't understand. I don't think people can quite fathom how like serious it was coming out of the pandemic into the cost of living when all these things are colliding because the central bank has printed a lot more money to try and keep the economy stable. And then
Hmm.
supply chains have led to higher cost push inflation. Now, in economics, the easiest one to solve is demand pull inflation. You raise interest rates. Cost push inflation, on the other hand, is external. You have no control.
External.
So most of the inflation we started to see was cost push. It was being driven by the fact that you have bottlenecks in the supply chain. That's not changing overnight. That picture cannot change even within 6 months. It takes
Yeah.
at least 12 months to 2 years to see any tangible change. But you're raising interest rates because your objective is always to try and keep inflation low. I'm sorry, but that's not going to solve it because cost push inflation is totally out of the remit of interest rate policy and monetary policy. It will make just about a negligible dent.
Yeah, and
Not as
I guess also that perfect storm, the geopolitical
yeah,
with Russia and the UK, and so that was more external factors in terms of one of the biggest increases in cost for everyone was energy, and that was another great increase due to geopolitical factors. So to your point, we kind of had that perfect storm
Brilliant.
of these factors happening, which is leading to prices shooting up for the everyday person.
All at the same time as well. And in economics, there's this belief that obviously the easiest solution when prices are going up is for workers to turn around and go to their companies and say, listen, you need to give me a pay rise. The problem with that in economics
Yeah.
is this. If you ask for a pay rise, that effectively pushes up the cost for companies. And when cost for companies goes up, guess what they do? They turn around and put the prices even further.
Pass it on.
It becomes a spiral, it becomes a race to the top. So that was what the governments were really scared of, that was going to happen, which is why you've seen them push back against all the strikes. They're still not really giving, especially in the public sector, they're not giving workers that pay rise they really need to even
Yeah.
just be at an even level, stay unaffected. So it was mad for me. What I also recognized was just there was a lot of idiocy. Let's just be honest about it. A lot of these politicians don't really understand all these principles. Two, you know, I think what's his name, Andrew Tate, always says that peace is always worth a discussion. You are taking on Russia at a time when things are already very uncertain and unstable globally, and then to spite yourselves, you say nobody can buy Russian oil and gas. Well, what you're effectively doing is by cutting off a main part of the supply chain, you're forcing everybody to rely on the rest of the world.
Best.
And if you're relying on the rest, guess what's going to happen? Prices will
This is
go
a
up
bit goal.
because everybody's now competing for the same amount of resources by the virtue that you have cut off some of the resources available. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And they're still carrying on. It's all against this, I don't even want this belief, this ideology that they are the champions of democracy. Everybody has a different system of government that doesn't necessarily fit with the profile of democracy. What's your problem? Just accept it. And now we're seeing even more consequences from the actions of all these, especially Western governments, because the world is transitioning now into a unipolar world, and that means, fundamentally speaking, your voice as a Western collective is going to be less. It's going to have less influence. It's going to have less power. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that
Yeah.
all these things have been happening at the same time because the people that really suffer are the everyday people. Like, there's
Yeah.
very, very few things that they can do to to mitigate the consequences
Yeah.
of this. So,
Yes. So we kind of moved it. So it's not only kind of like, is it a new economy? It's kind of like maybe a new world, maybe even. So
yeah,
everything that's going on, it's such a different climate to pre-pandemic to the climate we're in now. For the everyday person, some people are just worried about how they can just put food on their table. It's quite sad that it's the everyday person that's kind of impacted by all of this. How 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 can we how can we help them? Not because not everyone here. It's not that it's not just the lower income, but it's a range of people that get impacted. But how do you how do we help the person that's saying, well, it's all nice and working? I think it was one of the Bank of England committee members was saying not to ask for pay rises.
yeah,
But it's all right for people that are on higher salaries to say, okay,
mad.
it's fine for you to but if I'm struggling as it is to put food on my table or saying, you know, I can't heat my house, I'm having to wrap up in 10 blankets at night. It's that fine dichotomy that we're in. How do we balance all of this? So the kind of essence of economics in its basic form is the allocation of scarce resources.
Yeah.
And it really feels like we're
Oh,
in that.
boy, it's you know what, you know my stance already. I'm not gonna hold back. First thing you have to do is just
Yeah.
bin the lot of them. Just bin the lot of them. Just need a clear out from Parliament to the Bank of England because they're all idiots. Well, let me not say that, but a lot of them don't know what they're doing. It's like they're just completely blinded. They're so out of touch as well with the plight of the everyday person. The fact that you see use of food banks going up alone should sound the alarm bell that you need to do something. And we're going to see once this election comes just what people really think about you, because people let you know through their voting.
Yeah.
Me personally, none of the options are great right now. They all have, they have serious shortcomings. For me, my kind of, because I've really sat down and thought about this for a very long time, and the penny dropped one day when I was speaking to so for some people, they don't know that I still help out A-level students with economics when it comes to exam time. And I was having a discussion with one of my students one day, and I made the point that, in the West, we're credit driven. That's how we spend. And consumer spending is the largest component of the economy.
Economy. Yeah.
And I was saying, so in that moment, I was telling him how severely indebted we are as well, which is another problem that governments are trying to tackle. The penny, he just said something in that moment. It was like, I was like, why? Obviously, it's so obvious. Why didn't I think about it? He said, so basically, every time companies make profit or employees receive their salary and income, that's effectively debt. I was like, yeah, it actually is. There's more debt, especially in the West, than there is GDP. And currently, the forecast is that by 2028, there will be more debt globally than there is GDP. So that tells you that debt is growing faster than basically income.
Yeah.
So, what does that then mean? Well, for me, as an accountant, I sat down and thought about it. When you're looking at accounting, you have two main statements: profit and loss, and the balance sheet. When you have debt, it sits on the balance sheet side, and that causes general weakness to your ability to continue to keep things going, right? Because your balance sheet represents your net assets. The more indebted you are, the more you have to dedicate of any money that you make towards paying it off. So we need a debt jubilee. That's the first thing. We need some type of global collective bargaining agreement that says, boom, we're going to write off these debts. But how do you practically do that?
Good luck.
So, so that's first you have to convince them to do a debt jubilee, but then how do you actually execute it? For me, you have to do a one-time transfer on the balance sheet side to the statement of other comprehensive income, and that kind of almost makes the debt effectively become income. That's a write-off for me. But then the other side is, okay, what about the people that gave the debt? Well, listen, Bank of England, you have a reputation from just, since the financial crisis 15 years ago, bailing people out. So you guarantee the debt. Print the money, you always print money. But do it systematically. It sounds like a mad hatter moment, but it's like what other effective tool is there to get people out from crippling debt as well as this? Oh, now some people might push back and say, right, if you get the Bank of England guaranteeing debt, that effectively means they, print more money, and that will lead to high inflation. Well, you have to do it systematically. So if a debt originally that somebody had or a company had was over 15 years, well, the debt holder, what you have to do is pay them back over that 15 years. Yeah. And that, that stretches it out and the impact to the rest of the economy. But I think something has to give, because if it doesn't, and we can't continue on this trajectory, you're just going to be squeezing families more, and you're going to have populist uprisings eventually. I don't think at the moment we're there yet for that kind of thing. I think we're still very, we can groan, we can mumble, but we're not. This is not the early 20th century with the Bolshevik movement, with the revolution. But eventually, when people are when you push a dog into a corner, eventually it's going to start biting back. So yeah.
Yeah,
But it's really hard to conceptualize how this will, it's taken me so long to actually think, right, okay, how is this going to work? Because I don't see what you can tell a mom that's already working full time, a single parent, even a 2-parent household where they're both working full time, still got kids, to basically do more work. Yeah. This country, especially in the UK, we have a problem with productivity. So low productivity. productivity is not great, which basically means you produce more per hour
per
of work.
person or
Yeah.
per hour. Yeah,
And that's what you can then, it's when you produce more, you can sell more and obviously make more, which then can help rebalance your economy. Because our economy is completely imbalanced at the moment. So I don't see how you can tell workers the working age to basically work more or produce more. Like,
yeah.
economics doesn't work that way. You have to train them. You have to
Unfortunately,
stimulate
not.
the economy to help. So you can't really say, okay, people, the onus is on you
Yeah,
to try and fix the situation for yourself and make it better. Very people have that spare capacity to be able to do that. And two, even if they were able to do that, what other impact would that have on the rest of their other elements of their life?
elements of
Yeah, because like, you're a family man. You can talk about it. Like you're
yeah.
making out. Yeah, you understand. So it's like okay,
We're laughing already.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's yeah, it's a very interesting period of time that we're in, and yeah, I forgot how you're always willing to speak your mind with your ideas, which is nice. That's what we're here
who's
for.
that?
That's what
I got
we're here
time
for.
for nah. I got time for these politicians. So they're yeah, the
Yeah, this
whole
is what we're here for, and I think generally, it's nice to be back. We'll be having these discussions more often. Current affairs, what's going on, how it's impacting us, and then going back to our bread and butter, just being able to help any little tips and financial nuggets that we can give any person listening or watching this, just basic tips about how they can navigate their everyday finances. That was at the heart of why we kind of started Economic Street, is to help promote financial literacy and financial education, and to help people become more aware and financially savvy. So these are the things that we're looking to bring back to the audience, and it's just nice to be back and having these discussions again, because it's been a hot minute.
It has. Yeah, it has. So stay locked in, stay tuned. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you share this video. If you like what you've heard, if you don't like what you heard, we want to hear from you as well.
Yeah,
Tell us as
definitely.
well what would you like us to discuss? Because obviously it's your life that is being impacted. So if you have a topic that's on your heart that is burning, we can also get you on the platform as well to have that
Definitely.
conversation. So yeah, we're back.
I said, with that, to wrap up, thanks for your time again, Ola. It's nice to be back. So say we'll be here again. So to Ola's point, anything you do like, don't hesitate to let us know. So if you want to be on the platform, let us know too. And so we're here to help promote and push that financial literacy here in the UK and beyond.
Yeah. So stay
And with
locked in.
that, stay locked in. Have a good one, guys. See you later.